This Wednesday, landmarks around the world, like the one behind me, will be lit up red in order to raise awareness about Christian persecution. This is an event organised by Aid to the Church in Need. 360 million Christians around the world are persecuted for their faith. That's an astonishing 1 in 7. I spoke to Rachel Buckley from Aid to the Church in Need to find out a bit more about this topic.
Aid to the Church in Need is an international pastoral organisation providing assistance wherever the church is threatened, suffering, poor and persecuted. So where people cannot go to the church, Aid to the Church in Need supports projects that bring the church to the people. Unfortunately, in this day and age, we still need people's support more than ever.
So could you quickly explain what the situation is that Aid to the Church in Need are trying to solve?
It's actually a fact that Christians suffer persecution from harassment to murder in more countries than any other faith group. So it's basically our job and our mission to help those persecuted people.
What do you think people need to know about Christian persecution?
Making people aware, really, of this persecuted and forgotten people who we go on about our day-to-day lives and don't think for a minute about how oppressed Christians are just for their faith in countries that we actually might be amazed at.
Could you maybe give me some examples of where this persecution is actually taking place in the countries?
China, Pakistan, Libya, Egypt, Cuba, Syria, we all know about. Mexico, where priests are often kidnapped, never to be seen again. Nigeria, where Boko Haram is running amok. We also help in places like Ukraine. We've also rebuilt some of the churches in Russia, kind of a sign of Christ rising from the ashes of persecution, because the churches were closed for over 50 years. So all these places, there are many places. North Korea, where, you know, if you get caught with the Bible, you will be put in a cage where you can't stand up and you can't sit down. All these countries and all these people in those countries need to be remembered and not forgotten about.
Would you say that people don't really know about this conflict? Would you say that it would possibly be underrepresented in the media?
Absolutely, and obviously we're never seen on mainstream media, and that's why it's so important to get our story out. But we need the government to get on board. We need the government to understand what's going on in their country and to understand the rights of not just women, but the tender age of 14-year-olds who are being abducted, that these are children. And therefore, if we had more help from their own governments and they made the laws different and not sided with one other particular religion, then maybe we could get somewhere.
Why are they actually being persecuted in the first place?
Because they are in the minority. If you're living in somewhere like Pakistan, where Christianity is not to the fore, you're going to have problems.
What actually is Red Wednesday for people that don't know?
Red Wednesday is to bring to the fore the suffering of Christians, as I said before, from harassment to murder, because Christians are persecuted in more countries than any other faith group. So we say Red Wednesday because red is a representation of the blood of the martyrs who have shed their blood for their faith. So what we would do is we light up buildings red. We have services where we'll put red candles everywhere. We've lit up the Trevi Fountain before today, Houses of Parliament, Blackpool Tower, all these different places that will show, and people will ask, well, why is that lit up red? And it's to represent the blood of the martyrs. So it's to basically bring the plight of the suffering and the forgotten and the persecuted to the fore, so we can fundraise for them, so we can support them, and also, more than anything, so we can pray for them.
With all of this persecution that's happening, how does it personally make you feel?
Me personally, some of the stories that we hear about are absolutely heartbreaking, and it does make us somewhat despondent, but there's always hope. There's always hope. And there's that great story of when our ex-CEO went to Syria and he was seen a lady sitting by the wayside, and her church was in rubble, and she had a little kid next to her, I think it was a grandchild, and basically she'd lost her husband and I think her daughter and his son-in-law. And Neville said to her, you know, what hope do you have since all this has befallen you? And she had the rosary beads in her hand, and she looked at him and she said, hope? Of course we have hope. We are Christian.
Some inspiring words about hope at the end of that. If you are in the position to donate, you can donate at acnuk.org.